Line, An Ethical Dilemma by Lydia Latour Ornelas. The vignette, To Skate or Not to Skate, follows Dr. Logan Earthski, a child and adolescent psychologist who's working closely with a patient named Tony, who struggles with anxiety and low self-esteem. After Mr. and Mrs. Hawk, Tony's parents, had mentioned a previous bad experience with team and direct competition sports, Dr. Ersky suggests skateboarding, an individual, not inherently competitive sport, to improve Tony's self-confidence and help manage his anxiety. Dr. Ersky disclosed that he himself had enjoyed skateboarding growing up and had been a skating instructor for some time. Mr. and Mrs. Hawk loved this idea and pitched it to Tony, who was willing to try it out. After some anxiety coaching from Dr. Earthski, Tony was able to approach the skate park and growing in his skating performance and build up his self-esteem. But before their next session, Dr. Ersky received a voicemail from Mrs. Hawk requesting that Dr. Ersky, the psychologist, give Tony some skating lessons in addition to being his primary therapist. Now, the immediate players introduced in this vignette are Dr. Ersky, Mr. and Mrs. Hawk, and their son, Dr. Ersky's client, Tony. Some inferred or hypothetical players would be insurance adjusters, both from the Hawks medical insurance and Dr. Earthsy's professional liability insurance, the peers and any others people at the skate park, and a third-party skate instructor who will come into our story later. Mrs. Hawk probably had no idea of the tough position she threw Dr. Ersky into. If he had said yes, Dr. Ersky would be entering into a dual relationship with Tony as not only Tony's therapist, but also as a skate instructor. Dual relationships, or multiple relationships, when a psychotherapeutic relationship, can be difficult to navigate correctly, as confidentiality and confusion might become factors that can interrupt the therapeutic process, or at worst inflict emotional damage to a vulnerable client. Next, skateboarding is not known to be the safest sport. There is a possibility that these skating lessons could be charged as billable therapeutic sessions, but suppose a moderate to severe injury were to occur during one of these sessions, Dr. Ersky would still be liable, as it would still be billed to his therapeutic session according to the Hawks health insurance. While some occupations recommend general liability insurance to cover a physical injury, typically therapists and mental health professionals will have professional liability insurance, which will protect them from more abstract injuries such as negligence or misconduct. Dr. Ersky would need to make sure that his insurance policy would cover bodily injury to both himself and to his client on the job before accepting. An alternative to Dr. Ersky himself teaching Tony would be to hire a third-party skate instructor, as we mentioned before, covered themselves by general liability, who have also participant accident coverage available for Tony should anything happen, who would teach Tony the lessons, and then would also give the opportunity for an in vivo therapeutic session with fewer insurance liabilities. That brings us to an issue of confidentiality. Let's say the skate lesson is led by the third-party instructor at the skate park. To make the session billable, Dr. Ersky must inherently talk to Tony about some confidential information. Even just the doctor's presence in the skate park can be troubling for both the teen and for maintaining confidentiality both among the teen's peers. Even if the group goes for the third-party instructor option, that instructor may become privy to some confidential information if the family chooses to move forward with the in vivo sessions. On top of ethical violations, there are some legal concerns. First of all, Tony is a minor. If he were to be injured during skating lessons, it would not be him pressing charges, but Mr. and Mrs. Hawk. Even though having the doctor be the skating instructor was their idea, there is a possibility that they could still sue Dr. Ersky for negligence during their sessions. Navigating personal injuries would be a huge concern, not just for everybody's insurance, but for ensuring everybody's safety during sessions. As established earlier, it would entirely depend on Dr. Ersky's insurance policy and if the doctor and the Hawks decided to go through a skate instructor or skateboarding school. If the sessions are just the doctor and Tony, or if Tony or the doctor gets hurt, not reporting the injury would be very illegal and very difficult to repair the therapeutic relationship afterwards. The American Psychological Association explicitly warns psychologists against entering into multiple relationships with clients that become harmful in Section 3.05, Multiple Relationships. The code states that psychologists take reasonable steps to resolve any potentially harmful multiple relationships that arise due to unforeseen factors. Immediately, alarm bells went off when Mrs. Hawk left a voicemail asking for Dr. Earthski to be Tony's skate instructor as well as his primary therapist. In this specific situation, even if the insurance and legal issues could be resolved, the dual relationship could end very badly, and the real victim would be Tony if Dr. Earthski did not balance the exceptionally fine line between maintaining the therapeutic relationship and now nurturing this new instructor-student relationship. For this instance, if Dr. Earthski's new role as an instructor-mentor requires him to give more instruction and feedback, both positive and constructive, as opposed to his current role of therapist, a far general role, this transition may be jarring to Tony, who struggles already with anxiety and self-esteem issues, and may impede Dr. Earthski's progress with him as a therapist. But on the other hand, now let's say Dr. Earthski and the Hawks live in a small, relatively remote town, and the Hawks have regular contact with the doctor in public places outside the therapy office, say in grocery stores and restaurants and other public places. In smaller towns, when there can be more transparency and accountability, more and more studies are showing that closely monitored dual relationships, such as those, as long as all of the above can continue to persist, that therapy remains effective, everybody remains safe, that no laws are broken, can even benefit patients and help them heal holistically. Psychologists and counselors will sometimes enlist the help of an ethical decision-making model to help them visualize or map out any possible outcomes and to foresee as many consequences as possible. The following model, developed by Forrester, Miller, and Davis, published by the American Counseling Association, and cited and showcased by Shea et al., emphasizes the principles of autonomy, justice, beneficence, non-maleficence, and fidelity. Those steps are: identify the problem, apply the ACA Code of Ethics, determine the nature and dimensions of the dilemma, generate the potential courses of action, consider the potential consequences of all options and determine a course of action, evaluate the selected course of action, and then implement the course of action. Based on my results of the life values inventory, my top 3 values are concern for others, privacy, and interdependence. These values are reflected in the ethical violations identified in the vignette in a few impactful ways. Understanding these high-priority concerns for me can be insightful for evaluating future ethical dilemmas and helping others navigate theirs. First, concern for others appears in my first reaction that the main ethical violation would be that Dr. Earthski and Tony's therapeutic relationship, and possibly both their physical safety, may be compromised if Dr. Earthski took the new role as Tony's skate instructor. Second, prioritizing privacy shows, as I mentioned, how regular skate lessons being billed to insurance as therapeutic sessions could violate confidentiality and jeopardize Tony's privacy as a therapeutic client. Lastly, I ask myself, ultimately, if no one is in immediate physical or emotional danger, or in danger of exploitation, and as long as the therapy continues to be effective, are dual relationships really bad? I believe this comes from a place of seeing the value of interdependence, especially after reading and researching the testimonials of those living in rural areas of First Nations peoples, or of those living in majority areas, cultures around the world distinct from the culture that modern psychology was originally developed for, areas such as much of Asia, Africa, South America, and much of the Middle East and India. Talking to a stranger about your feelings seems like the last thing a broken, vulnerable person would want to do. More often than not, these people find much more comfort in talking to someone they already know they can trust, someone who is already interwoven into the community, such as an auntie, an uncle, or an elder. The American Psychological Association sets clear guidelines to protect both the client and the psychologist and any third-party member from harm. The most applicable principle to this vignette, then, would be Principle A, beneficence and non-maleficence, in which psychologists are called to do no harm and to work toward the ultimate good of those with whom they work. If Dr. Earthski is to become Tony's teacher in addition to his therapist, care needs to be taken that Tony's mental health is consistent and that creating changes in his life structure may be upsetting to an already struggling teen. Fortifying this principle would be Principle C, integrity. By operating with integrity, a psychologist upholds the first principles of beneficence and maleficence. As Dr. Earthski were to commit to both positions, he would need to maintain honesty and integrity to an intense degree, at least with Mr. and Mrs. Hawk, to ensure that minimal harm comes to Tony. Something not yet mentioned is What if Dr. Earthski has himself not been on a skateboard in quite some time and does not feel comfortable teaching a student? In this case, it would be his ethical duty, according to Section 2.01, Boundaries of Competence, to let the Hawks know that he does not have enough competence in the area of skateboarding, at least to teach a student, and it would be wiser to hire someone who does have the competency in that area, such as a certified skate instructor. As previously stated in Section 3.05, Multiple Relationships, the ABA declares that a psychologist holding positions of authority in a client's life, when one or more of them is a relationship of a psychotherapist, this relationship can become unethical if harm comes to the patient or a therapist if the therapeutic relationship is compromised. It is then the duty of the therapist to take steps to remove the dual relationship, mitigating as much damage as possible. As soon as the therapeutic session leaves a mental health professional's office, confidentiality can become an issue. Standard 4.01, Maintaining Confidentiality, declares that it is the psychologist's duty to ensure that confidentiality is maintained during the lifespan of the therapeutic relationship. For Dr. Earthski, he and the Hawks decide to take therapy sessions to the skate park and build the insurance. The insurance will likely want some sort of proof that therapy and progress is taking place. To protect Tony's patient confidentiality, and possibly Tony's self-esteem, Dr. Earthski may need to get creative to find ways to satisfy the health insurance while maintaining Tony's mental health privacy in a public place. Of course, there can be countless outcomes of this scenario, but let's explore 3. Outcome 1. The Hawks agree to the alternative skate instructor and would love for Dr. Earthski to be involved in the in vivo sessions, but after a lengthy discussion with his insurance agent, the doctor must tell the Hawks that the insurance policy restrictions will not allow him to engage in these sessions. At that point, Dr. Earthski would continue to check in with Tony in their sessions to see how skating is going, and maybe even be inspired himself to get back out on his own board. Outcome 2, kind of a sub-outcome of Outcome 1. After a lengthy discussion with that insurance agent, Dr. Earthski takes out an additional insurance policy to cover himself should anything happen. The added premium is a pretty hefty, however, and could long-term cause financial strain unless the doctor picks up more clients or does something else to financially compensate. Tony's in vivo sessions go well for a few times, but after a while, Tony voices discomfort being a teenager going to a skate park with 2 middle-aged men who have known each other for years. Knowing Tony is entirely valid, Dr. Earthski stops the in vivo sessions, returning to just his clinical sessions with Tony, while Tony has a skate session with the instructor. Now, let's say, unfortunately, that insurance policy has a clause that when Dr. Earthski tries to cancel that it's been under 3 months or some arbitrary amount of time of holding the policy, that he is liable to pay a steep penalty to cancel early. Now, outcome 3, a second sub-outcome to outcome number 1, that is very much not recommended. Do not try this at home. Dr. Earthski engages in the in vivo sessions, but without taking that secondary insurance policy after seeing just how much the monthly premium would be. In the first few sessions, everyone is fine, and the doctor builds up confidence. He tries one trick he used to do flawlessly, and does not stick the landing, ending up in the hospital. Now, not only is he paying out of pocket for those medical bills, and for any time off he must take before he's up to seeing his clients again, but this could also interfere with his regular malpractice insurance and the health insurance and the trust of the Hawks. In this last scenario, Dr. Earthski stopped operating with integrity and potentially paid a high price for it.
Check it out. First got it when he was 6, didn't know any tricks. Matter of fact, first time he got on it, he slipped, landed on his hip and busted his lip. For a week he had to talk with a lisp like this. Now we can end the story right here, but shorty didn't quit. It was something in the air. Yeah, he said it was something so appealing. He couldn't fight the feeling, something about it. He knew he couldn't doubt it, couldn't understand it, brand it. Since the first kick flip, he